Hello, my name is Alexis Maxey, and I am presenting my lesson plan project on argumentative writing, or the unit is argument. The content standards that I will be focusing on is to cite several pieces of textual evidence, trace and evaluate the argument and specific claims in the text, and analyze how two or more authors writing about the same topic shape their presentations of key information. The next standards that I will be addressing are social and ethical human issues, um, technology productive tools, and technology communication tools. An overview of my project is students are currently working on an argument unit. In this unit, students learn the vocabulary of argumentative writing. They will read several pieces of text where students are required to determine the claim of the argument and determine the evidence used to support the author's claim is valid. Students then will read two texts that have similar topics and write an essay explaining who had the better argument and why, or which text had the better argument and why. So some of the tasks or the products they had to do, I actually showed a vocabulary video to introduce the argument vocabulary to the students, and then I explained, or prior to this unit, we talked about text structures and comparing and contrasting. So we were moving into informational writing, or when we read for information, and the students are now moving into learning about argument and how these two texts have similar topics, but they are very different. What do they do to support their claims? So these students had to work in pairs or groups to answer the text questions, which they did on Google Docs. And they also had to create a graphic organizer that presented their evidence to support each claim, and then they had to explain how all of this ties in together by creating a screencast presentation. So here are some student work samples. I will start with the questions. And here, the students, I listed the standards for the students. Okay, in pairs, read pro athlete salaries aren't overly exorbitant. Here's the instructions for them. And then their answers are in red. Okay, so there were only 7 questions, and in their pairs or their groups, they answered them collaboratively to, of course, cut down on the time spent on everybody working on the same thing. So I'll exit out of that, come back here, and also I want to show the PowerPoint presentation that the students created. Oh, sorry. There's just a few of their slides that they used. I will exit out and show now the screencast that they created.
Hello, we are two students in Miss Maxey's class. Today we were supposed to talk about argument.
The standard, the I can statement. We are addressing that we can figure out an author's point of view in a piece of informational text and examine how the author's position is different from the others.
The task we had today was to read 2 articles. The first one was pro athlete salaries aren't overly exorbitant, and the second article was do professional athletes get paid too much. We were asked to decide which article has the better argument based on the evidence from the text.
So that's a sample of the screencast that the students created after they gathered all of their facts and their information to determine who had the better argument and why based on what they read and the evidence that they found. So the essential question is, what is an argument? What makes an argument effective? How can arguments affect change? And why is it important to have a strong evidence to make a logical, non-emotional argument? The students also took a Plickers quiz on the vocabulary terms and the responses from the reading. Some of the assessments that I collected was responses on the readings discussions, the graphic organizers the students had to create, and then their actual screencast presentation. Some problems that I might have run into were the Chromebooks not being available, which is why I reserved them weeks in advance. I made sure that students knew their email addresses, and I ensured that the media specialist supported me with making sure the Chromebooks were charged. So differentiation that I use, I actually work with a collab class, and so I have a collaborative teacher, special ed teacher in my room all the time. So we allow students to work in pairs or working collaboratively. We of course go with their IEP and their 504 plans to ensure that we are assisting and making sure that we are focusing on the accommodations. We modify grading and allow incentives for assignment. Also, of course, small group instruction. For the closing, students will be given a survey to complete once the lesson is over. The survey will be posted on Google Forms, and students will complete the homework. And here is the actual survey. If students don't get an opportunity to complete the homework, they can do it for either a ticket out of the door or a warm-up activity. Something that I would like to reflect on is that the lesson so far has been very informative. My kids, I feel like, are really learning about this particular topic, and they are creating great synthesis about these texts and recognizing some texts have great evidence that supports their claim while others don't. The Popplet, for some reason, is just not operable on Chromebook cards. For some reason, it just continues to load. So I definitely will try other forms of tools on internet tools that can create graphic organizers. Something I wanted to discuss with you guys too is that what I noticed is that my students did a great job with analyzing the text, like I said, and they found the claim of both texts and collectively realized that text B had the better argument because the facts presented were relevant and sufficient. But when doing the Plickers quiz, I guess they just got really excited. I had to make sure that they adjusted to what we were doing because the information was still punitive. So that was the major thing. I really enjoyed working on this lesson, and we have so much more to do before the Christmas break. I hope we can squeeze it all in. And that is it. Thank you so much, Alexis Maxey.